Good afternoon. Welcome, everybody. So today I'm going to focus on how to really grow your business in 2022. And the idea here is to almost give you a plan or a strategy or some guidelines. You know, I've been running my own business for the last 30 or so years, and for the last 25 years, I've been educating and training business owners. And it's really interesting that when you work with so many business owners, there are often things that you notice that make certain business owners more successful than the others. And one of the things that I've noticed is that, you know, people that are a little bit more organized, people that plan in advance, I think really helps business owners. And I think that is something that you need to focus on. You want to try and plan every year for the new year. And I've been doing it for a bunch of years, and it really, really helps me focus on growing my business. The first thing every single one of us have got to do, and it's been really interesting, you know, working with business owners over the last few months or the last year or two, how people have changed their perspective or changed their vision or changed the idea or changed the direction they're going in. And I find that a lot of people are doing this. You know, I've been listening to quite a few business owners on pitching competitions and business plan competitions, and it's been really interesting to hear what they're saying. And this is something that every single one of us need to look at every year. We need to look at our businesses and say, what was my vision for my business and what is my vision now? Because I've found over the years, in our case, in the case of BizLaunch, is that this has sometimes changed. I know, for example, when we first started BizLaunch, I started off by running a training program that educates business owners over 5 weeks. And then the business evolved, and then we were creating content, always small business related stuff. We were running seminars across the country in staple stores. But as our business evolved and changed direction, so did our business vision. And the last 5 years, we've been spending a lot of time doing online stuff, running online webinars, online training programs, and also, you know, creating content that we hadn't created before. So the vision we had initially in our business is not the same vision. Now, next year, our vision is very similar to this year and last year, but there's a couple of little tweaks to it. And I encourage you to think about your business. And the things that you need to think about when it comes to your vision is really where is your business now? And where do you want it to be in 5 years' time? I know that at this stage of our business, and it really depends on what stage you are at your business, depends on your age, all of those things will influence your vision. I know that at this stage of our business, it is different to what it was 5 years ago and what it was 10 years ago. So the model we want to create now is very, very different to what I wanted to create before. And I think it's got a lot to do with how long we've been in business, how the business has grown, how we've established our brand, what products and services we like offering. So all of those things. And I want you to think about this. This is where you are now. Where do you want to be in 5 years' time? And almost visualize this, you know, create, you know, maybe get a board, a whiteboard or a piece of paper and write things down. And the things I want you to write down are things like, what do you want to be known for? You know, I met a couple of people last week that have recently opened a bakery in southwestern Ontario. And it was really interesting to listen to them, you know, speaking about what they want to bake, what they want to be known for, the type of ingredients they're going to be using. And for a lot of us, this has become very, very important. The one thing that I found, especially over the last couple of years, is that businesses have become more caring. Businesses have become more focused on the customer. Businesses have become more thinking about the environment and sustainability and buying local and all those type of things. So as a business owner, nobody dictates to you what you should and shouldn't do, but you want to create a situation that works for you. So what do you want to be known for? In the case of BizLaunch, We want to be known as, trainers of small business owners, that we run very inspirational webinars and seminars and training programs. And that's what we want to be known for. And we want to be the experts in that field. What do you want people to say about your business? And I think this is one thing that a lot of us small business owners that grow our businesses over time into bigger small businesses or medium businesses, want people to say positive things about our business, positive things about the products we sell, positive things about our employees, about our management style, about all of those things. And this is your responsibility as a business owner, is you need to decide, what do you want people to say about you? Do you want them to speak about your customer service? Do you want them to speak about the great products that you sell? Do you want them to say that you're trustworthy, or whatever it is you want to think about these things? Because these things influence what you're planning for in the future. It also influences the direction you're going, the things that you're going to be doing in your business. And the other thing I want every one of you to think about is, what is your exit strategy? So one day you're going to get to a stage and you're going to decide to either sell your business or pass it on to your family, or maybe not work as much. At my age, I'm speaking to a lot of business owners that are more or less my age, that some of them, their exit strategies are handing it over to their daughters or sons that are going to run the business for them. For some of them, it's just working far less and playing more golf. For others, they want to sell their business. You and I need to decide this, because once we decide, let's say I decide, for example, I want to sell my business, then I need to prepare my business to be sold. And what does that mean? That means making sure my financials are properly done, making sure that I have systems and processes in place so that somebody can buy my business. So basically, you want to make sure that your business is buyable. I don't know if that's a word, but you want to prepare for that eventuality. So as a business owner, I want you to think about these things. Those are really, really important. And I find that these things change over time. I mean, I can think of one example. In 2019, I was working with somebody in Boca Raton. I was running a workshop for them online on, to motivate their staff. And I remember chatting to them at the time, and they were saying, you know what, they want to sell their business. So they were preparing to sell their business. And then it's interestingly, in 2020, they changed their minds. And now I see selling their business is not a priority, growing their business is a priority. So what I'm saying to you is that your vision or your planning or the decisions you make change over time as a business owner. And every single business owner, I think, especially successful ones that I've worked with over the years, every now and then get tired of their business. They'll go through a couple of years where they're tired, they'll think about selling it, and then they'll change it. And I can think of one example now, somebody that I'm really close to recently was almost going into semi-retirement. And then what happened, he bought out one of his competitors, and all of a sudden he had this, he was almost like invigorated and changed the direction of his business. So this is why I want you to understand, depending on the stage your business is at, what you're going to be doing. But every single year, as business owners, we need to re-look at our business and ask ourselves this question: are we on the right track? What do we want to be known for? What do we want people to say about us? Do we have an exit strategy? If the answer is yes, we do something about it. If the answer is no, well, then we just keep operating in a certain direction. But being very, very clear about what you're doing. The other thing that I think is very important that all of us understand is that sometimes you say you're going to do things, but you don't always do them. And that's okay. I find that every year, probably 20 to 25%, what I say I'm going to do, I don't do. But most of the things that my vision, the direction the business is going in, those things I can almost dictate at the beginning of the year. And I promise you, the one thing you're going to learn very, very quickly as a business owner is that once you start writing things down, once you start planning things, you'll be shocked at how many of those things come through. And I've found this over the years, and it surprises me all of the time. Every year, when I reflect back on my goals for the previous year, I'm often shocked at what I wrote, not always, but for some of the things I wrote down, and more importantly, of how many of the things that I achieved that I wrote down. So let's say, for example, your vision is to be the number one in your industry, whatever that is, in terms of revenue, in terms of reviews, in terms of profit, whatever it is. If that's your decision, the next thing you need to focus on is to create a plan, a very, very simple plan that is practical, that works for you. And this is how my planning starts every year. It usually starts at the beginning of October. And I start thinking about the new year. And the first thing I start working on are my business goals. And I physically write these down. Actually, this year I typed them, but that's okay. But I physically write them down. I think about what do we want to do for BizLaunch in 2022, what projects we want to work on, what direction do we want to go in, all of those things. And it's very, very interesting what starts happening, because I've been doing this for many years, almost 25 now, and this specific business for the last 18, BizLaunch. And now I'm at a stage where we only work on projects that we really enjoy. If we don't, if it feels too much like work, I don't want to be working on those projects. So those are the decisions I make. And maybe because I can make them, that I make them. But I like to set goals for myself. I like to set goals, for example, for 2022. But some of my goals take a bit more time. Some goals may take 3 years, maybe 5 years. Let's use an example. Let's say I want to turn my business totally around. Let's say 2021 wasn't very successful for me. I wasn't very profitable. I want to turn my whole business around. That will probably take me between 3 and 5 years. And if that's the case, some of the one-year goals will be relevant, but some of them will carry on to year 2 and year 3. So this is why I like to think about those things. And I like doing this every year and then updating it as I go along. Even this morning, I was updating one of my goals for 2022, and I write them down. And then every year I go back and reflect on them. Usually I update them every 90 days. And then at the end of the year, go back and reflect and see how many of these I've achieved. And it's really interesting because I've kept these goals list in a folder on my computer. And it's really interesting for me anyway, to see how many of those that I've achieved. And I want you to know some of the most successful people that I've trained over the last 25 years do this every single year. Every single year, they write down what their goals are for the new year. And I've done this for many years. And it's really helped me, really, really helped me as a business owner. The second thing you want to do is you want to create a plan. So let's say, for example, my goal in 2022 is to do a revenue of $125,000. Let's say that's one of my goals. If that's one of my goals, I then need to create a plan to achieve that. And it doesn't matter what your business is, whether you're running a service business, whether you're running an e-commerce business, doesn't matter what it is. But you as a business owner needs to make the decision. You as a business owner needs to make the decision. And then you need to go through the planning process, because sometimes making the decisions is the easy part. Saying, you know what, I want us to do $125,000 of revenue in 2022. The next part, which is the most important part, is how are we going to do it? And then I want you to write these things down. And I've used a very, very simple system the last 5 years specifically. Before that, I'd always do that. But for the last 5 years, I've used a very, very simple system that I've created, a one-page document that I use that I really like. And one of the things that we try and identify in our business are problems our customers are having and opportunities for us to grow our business. So for example, the last 2 or 3 years, actually this has been going on for a few years. Obviously COVID has really helped us move everything online. But for the last 4 or 5 years, we've been creating a lot more content, training program, online training programs. And, we realized very, very quickly when the first project I worked on, I think was in 2018. So basically 4 years ago, at the beginning of 2018, when we first created our first online learning program, I realized that we could solve that problem. And the reason we went in that direction is because a customer came to us, which is often what happens in small business. A customer comes to you and says, can you do this? Or can you do that? And that's exactly what happened to us. A customer came to us with a problem. They wanted to launch a program across the country, and they needed a learning program for that. So that was the problem. We didn't know how to do this, or I thought we didn't know how to do this. The next thing is we came up with a solution. So they said to me, they wanted an 8-hour learning program, which sounds like a lot. You know why it sounds like a lot? Because it is a lot. So we created this 8-hour learning program, and the solution we came up with was almost like the methodology to do it. So firstly, decide on what the course is called. Secondly, what are going to be the different modules that we're going to discuss. Thirdly, who's going to present the content, who's going to create the content, who's going to record the content. All of those things are part of the solution that we had to come up with. And these are the type of things you want to be doing as a business owner, is you want to think about your industry. I mean, I was thinking about it this morning. I was thinking about, even retail, how it's changed, how restaurants have changed, how a lot of our businesses now have an offline portion and an online. I don't think it's going to go away. I really don't think that our customers are going to in the future say, you know what, we've got used to, doing things online, but we don't want to do that anymore. I think it's going to be a combination. There are going to be certain customers that only want the online version, and some customers that want, only the offline. And I think this is very, very important that you understand this as a business owner, is that different customers are going to have different needs. But you want to identify what their problems are. You want to identify what the opportunities are, and then come up with products or services that solve those problems, okay? And those are what you and I are going to focus on. And we've got to be thinking about that now. What products and services are we going to sell in 2022? Or what products or services are we going to focus on in 2022? That doesn't, and some of you, you'll keep doing the same thing. So this is not important, but for some of you, you're changing direction, and this is really, really important. The third thing you want to think about are your target customers. And I found this over the years, that depending on what product or what service we were selling, our target customers would change. And this is why it's very, very important that you do that. Maybe one of the exercises you could do is go through all of your invoices for the previous year, and try and identify exactly who bought from you and what products they bought and things like that, and decide, which are your most profitable customers. And you want to identify that. You want to identify your most profitable customers. And those are the ones you want to focus on. And it's really, really important that you understand this. You're going to come up with the demographic and what motivates them to buy. And I promise you, this is going to really help you. And the reason this is going to really help you is because it helps your marketing become more effective. When you've got clarity on who your customer is, it makes your marketing so much better. The fourth thing are what marketing tools are you going to be using to get these customers? So what marketing tool are you going to be using? And again, yeah, you got to think of specific. Are you going to be using email marketing? Are you going to be using search engine optimization? Are you going to be going to trade shows or conferences? All of these things you need to think about because they're going to influence your business in 2022. And these are decisions we need to make as business owners. What is our unique value proposition? That's something that you need to think about. And one of the best ways of doing that is getting out there and shopping your competitors, trying to identify what target market they're going after, and more importantly, what benefits do they offer customers that you do not? And once you can answer this question, it makes it so much easier for you to grow your business. Then you want to focus on the numbers side of your business. For a lot of us over the last 12 months, our fixed expenses have changed. We've got inflation now for the first time that I can remember in 18 years. Because we've got inflation, we've got to relook at our fixed expenses. And for some of us on this webinar, we have to charge more for our products or services. For the first time in many years, we have to increase our prices. Because if we don't increase our prices, we are going to make less profit. So some of the things we need to think about are, what are our monthly expenses? And we're going to add these up. Really, we're going to go through our bank statements, scan our bank statements, and calculate what they are. I know I was doing an exercise this week because I do a cash flow forecast for the next 12 months, and that's exactly what I was doing. I was going through every single one of my expenses because what I've tried and do quite successfully actually over the last 12 months is to reduce our overheads. And you never regret that decision. Obviously, you want to get value for money, but you don't regret that decision of going to, reduce your fixed expenses. The other thing you want to analyze is, what is your gross profit percentage? And all of you can do this very, very easily. If you go onto your income statement for the last 12 months, for your last financial year, you can easily work out what your gross profit is. Actually, if you just gave your accountant a call, they'd be able to tell you straight away. Your gross profit last year was 20% or 25% or whatever it is. But you need to know this number. And the reason you need to know this number going forward, you want to try and maintain this number. But because of inflation, because of the price of gas, because of the cost of labor, all of these things that are moving up, some of us have to make adjustments. The next thing you want to look at is your break even. You need to know, what is your break even sales every month? And I like to work on two different numbers. The one is, what do I need to cover all my expenses in my business? And secondly, and more importantly, what revenue do I need to generate to cover a reasonable salary for myself? Because ultimately, that's what I'm in business for. I get really concerned when people only focus on the first one, which is their business expenses. You want to do a combination of the two. If you need cash, how much do you need? There's going to be a lot of cash available to small business over the next 3 to 5 years so that we can get back to where we were pre-COVID. So governments, local municipalities, federal and provincial governments are going to be trying to lend you money or giving you grants. So as a business owner, you need to be aware of these. They take time to launch these programs, but I believe there's going to be a few coming up. I know of a few that are coming up over the next 12 months, but the dates are always a bit fuzzy when it comes to the government. How will you measure your success in 2022? This is really, really important that you as a business owner have a number for that, because how are you going to measure success? When it comes to the end of the year, how are you going to say to yourself, you know what, this was a very good year? And usually it's based on revenue or something like that. But for some of us, maybe not on revenue. I mean, for some of us, it could be some other measure tool that we've got, and these are the type of things you want to be thinking about. What is your sales forecast? So I worked on my sales forecast this week, and it gives me an idea of what revenue I'm going to generate over the last 12 months. And I like to use a little template like this. And the reason I like to use something simple like this is it jogs my brain to think about the different sections of my business. You know, what problems are there in our industry? What new products or services or same products and services we need to come out with? Who are our target customers? How are we going to reach these people? What is our value proposition? Has it changed? What is our break even? What is our cash flow situation over the next 12 months? And these are the type of things that I like to think about. The other thing I recommend you do is to do yourself a favor and do a simple SWOT analysis. Firstly, of your business. You know, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? And the type of things you want to think about is, in our business, what do we do that is different and better than our competitors? You know, because this is really key, that you understand that if you want to differentiate yourself from your competitors, you've got to be doing something different. And it doesn't have to be drastic. You know, I've realized this over the years, you know, that once your customers realize, I think our business, in the case of BizLaunch, for example, I mean, we've got lots of competitors, and there's lots of people that are probably more qualified, more educated, more whatever than us, but we get a lot of projects. And the reason we get a lot of projects is people trust us. They trust us to do a reasonable job, let's say a good job, and to live on time. And those are the things that differentiate us from our competitors. You know, our customers know if I say this will be delivered at the end of January, they know it'll be delivered at the end of January. And I think that's a competitive advantage. Can my competitors say the same? Often they can't. Why? Because I don't know why. They don't manage projects as reliably, whatever it is, you know, and things like, for example, even our webinars, we can guarantee clients high numbers because of the reputation we've built over the years. These are the type of things you want to think about as a business owner, is what are those things that differentiate you from your competitors? And if there's nothing, you have a problem. You really have a problem. You know, I was thinking the other day, actually, interestingly enough, I was driving past Crisp and Cream donuts, and I haven't eaten them, I don't know, maybe 15 years or so. But I saw a lineup, and I thought of myself, I was thinking about this. I thought of myself, why all of a sudden is there a lineup in Crisp and Cream donuts? And I don't know what the answer is, but there's something that they've done differently. Something, because I remember our local Crisp and Cream, there were not too many, there weren't lineups for a long time, for years. And all of a sudden during COVID, there was these lineups. And maybe it's circumstances, maybe it's trends, maybe whatever it is, but I think it's got a lot to do with COVID, because we weren't getting out of our cars. We were driving through drive-throughs, picking up donuts, not me, but other people were picking up donuts. And now all of a sudden, it's become very successful. But in the beginning, I remember the first time, actually, I went to a Crisp and Cream donuts many years ago in Daytona. The reason we walked into that store to get them is because they were warm donuts. They were fresh, they were warm, and that's the reason we bought them. So sometimes it's little things that differentiate you from your competitors, but you've got to identify what those things are. What makes your business unique? You know, let's say you and I were discussing your business, and I said to you, so let's say you're in the dried fruit and nuts business, and I say to you, you know, what makes you unique? And then you might have a reason. You might say, for example, we don't use oil when we roast our nuts. Oh, that's very, very interesting. Or we have the largest range of nuts compared to all our competitors, whatever it is. But you want to try and identify something that makes you unique. And once you can identify that thing or those things that make you unique, that's what you want to focus on in your marketing. Also, ask your customers. You know, if you've had customers for a few years that have bought from you regularly, you want to know, why do they buy from you? And I was speaking to one of our customers yesterday, and I know why they come back to us all the time. The reason they come back to us all the time is we're always honest, we're always upfront with them, and this is how I work with them. They'll say to me, Andrew, this is how much budget we have. And then I'll say, well, for that budget, this is what we can do for you. Or sometimes I'll say to them, you know what, it's not the type of work we do. You know what, maybe communicate with somebody else. But open honesty, I think for some customers, that is exactly what they want. Because in our case, we're not the cheapest. I know that for a fact, that sometimes we are far more expensive than most competitors. But the only thing is, they know we're reliable, we show up. So as a business owner, you want to think about those things. What are the things that your customers say when they come and buy your product or service? And write these things down, because they're very, very important when it comes to marketing. Very, very important. It's also, you know, when customers ask you, what are the benefits, you can focus on some of those strengths. And what problems do you solve better than anybody else? And I encourage you to do this exercise regularly. And if you've got employees, I encourage you to sit down with your employees and think about these things so you can identify your strengths. The other thing you want to look at are your weaknesses. And as a business owner, every single one of us need to be honest with ourselves. You know, I don't believe that any of us are good at everything, but I'm not anyway. And I've realized that often for a business to become successful, it often makes a lot of sense to outsource different things. For example, our bookkeeping and our accounting, maybe bring in somebody to do the marketing, whatever it is. But it's really important that we identify our weaknesses. We need to identify what are the gaps in our business. You know, what are we not doing so well? And for a lot of us, it's our marketing, it's our websites, it's our social media. These are the type of things. We know that if we did everything perfect, which is very difficult to get, but if we did everything perfect, our business would be much better. And sometimes I reflect on that. You know, I reflect on that and I say, you know, what if you did most things, say 80% of things perfect? Then, you know, the difference it would make in your business. The other thing you want to look at are growth opportunities. So for 2022, for example, one of the big opportunities for us, which we've done quite a lot over the years, but one of the things I'm working on is doing some work in Europe now. And that's the reason I'm going next week. I'm going away for a month. I'm going to be working on a new project, and it's specifically financial literacy. You know, one of the things that I've always wanted to do was to teach people how to manage money. I find that sometimes in business, we're good at the marketing, we're good at the sales, and sometimes even our businesses are very, very successful. The problem we have is how to manage money ourselves in our personal lives. And here's the thing you got to realize, for a business owner, it is quite different to an employee. You know, if you're an employee, you're getting a salary every month, you've often got benefits, you got maybe a pension plan or whatever it is, and somebody's taking care of you. As soon as you're a business owner, you have to take care of all of that stuff. And I know, especially the last 10 years, for me, it was quite a stressful thing. You know, where should I invest my money? Should I save my money? Should I buy real estate? Should I invest it in the stock market? Should I invest it in my business? All of those things are things you need to think about. So that is a new direction or a new growth opportunity for BizLaunch. And I want you to do the same thing. I want you to think about what the new growth opportunities are. And some of these are going to be absolute failures, just so you know. Many times over the years, I've come up with ideas on how to grow our business and then just can them after a bit of time, which is absolutely normal. But here's the thing, you know, not trying new products or not trying new opportunities are a downfall. I find that business owners in their comfort zone, that's not a good place to be in. I find that when we challenge ourselves, and for me as a business owner, it's usually when I go into a new market, usually internationally. In this case, Portugal, I've connected with somebody there that I'm working with, and I'm trying to develop something there. Those things take time. Those things take effort. Those things are frustrating at times. But as a business owner, you want to keep growing, especially now that we have inflation. Now that we have inflation, and I don't know how long it's going to be around for, but I've got a feeling it may be around for quite a while, we've got to identify growth opportunities. The other thing you got to think about are what are the threats to your growth? What's happening in your industry? What is changing? Is money, for example, going to get more expensive? And I believe it will over the next year or two. And these are the type of things that I want to plan for. These are the type of things I want to plan for so that I can address them in advance, which is quite an important thing. So start off by creating a little plan for your business. Start off by doing a SWOT analysis, and then go through some of the specifics. So the first thing I want you to think about is your marketing. Because here's the thing. You are not going to regret getting your marketing right. And I've seen this many times. And I've got an example, actually, of a business owner, an e-commerce business. And over the last 3 weeks, they've doubled their revenue. And all they did was they brought in a new marketing person and then just did a little bit of detail right. In their case, email marketing. And it's amazing how sometimes a little bit of effort can have massive impact on revenue. But here's the thing that makes you a better marketer is when you understand what's going on in the market, what trends are taking place in your industry. And yeah, you need to do searches. You really need to do searches. You need to go online. You need to do research. You need to go to other cities, maybe bigger cities than yours, or, and visit them and just see what changes are taking place. And I have always done this. I've been in this business for 25 years, but many times I'd go to different countries and go and see what they were doing. In my case, small business development. I remember at one stage going to the UK, or specifically London and the surrounding areas, and looking at some of the small business programs they were running there, looking at some of the content the banks were creating, look at the franchise industry, just to understand what the direction the industry was going in. And I encourage you to do the same thing, because if we can latch on to a trend, something that is happening in our industry, some changes that are taking place, it can have massive growth for our businesses. But it's being, observing, it's asking questions, it's going to trade shows, it's going to conferences, it's speaking to people that are part of associations to try and latch on to the next big thing in your industry. The other thing that is really worth doing as a business owner is really analyzing who your customers are. And I recommend you do this. Go through your invoices over the last 2 or 3 years and realize who are these people that are generating the majority of your profit. And you will realize very, very quickly that 80% of your business comes from a small portion, usually 20% of your customers. So as a business owner, you want to identify the 20%, this 20% that are generating 80% of your revenue, and you want to create a profile of them. You want to really understand them, because once you understand who they are, you want to look for more people like this. So the more details you have, for example, where are they from? How much do they buy? How often do they buy? All of these things help you understand your customer. And I promise you, you will not regret this. You will not regret really getting inside your customer's head and creating almost like this persona of the ideal customer for you. Because there are certain businesses and that really know who their customers are. And usually they are the most successful, because then they can tailor their products and services to this market. And it's very, very important that you understand this. If you have survived in business for 3 years or 5 years, it's probably because you're doing something right. Also, you've targeted a specific group of people. You want to know who those people are so you can understand them. The other thing is you want to do research and speak to your customers. Not only do you want to understand what they think about your business, but what do they think about your products or services? Because often this is what will happen when you speak to your regular customers. You'll say to them, we'll have a discussion with them, and they'll say things like, you know what, we're having a problem with this, or we're having a problem with that. And I can think of one business owner specifically that in his industry, he's known as a problem solver. So it's worked in his favor, because when customers have unique challenges, they come to him. And so he's developed this reputation in the industry as, if nobody else can help you, you go to this guy. He's the expert. A little bit more expensive than average, but he is the expert. And you want to try and identify that, because it's amazing how we as consumers will justify buying certain products and services, even paying more for certain products and services because they're important to us. Who are your competitors? Every single one of us on this webinar have to have a clear idea of who our competitors are. We have to have a clear idea of who they are. And the reason is that they evolve and change. I know in our industry, it evolves and changes. And I, on a regular basis, need to try and find out, for example, how much are my competitors charging? And sometimes it's asking their customers, sometimes it's speaking to people in the industry, but having a clear idea of what people are charging. What I don't want to do is undercharge for my product or service. And I find that most business owners, and I was looking at a really good example this morning of somebody that is launching new products in the e-commerce business. And the part I liked about what they've done is they've done a spreadsheet of all of their competitors and how much they were charging, and they've broken it down. And this is very, very important that you do this. The interesting part I found, they in the dried fruit and nuts business, the interesting part I found was the massive variances in prices. And they're known as a premium product. So this allows them to make more gross profit. But understanding what their competitors charge really, really helps. How do your competitors market their stuff? Now, every single one of us on this webinar have competitors. Maybe not direct competitors, some of us, because our business is very unique or different, but we have competitors. Because we have competitors, we need to know what they're doing. Are they running webinars? Are they doing seminars? Are they doing something really well on social media? Those are the type of things we need to try and understand so we can understand what's working, what's not working. And I think it's always a good idea to go through your competitors and look at their strengths and their weaknesses and really understand them and try and make their weaknesses your strengths. Try and identify what are those things they're not doing so well. And if you can make their strengths yours, also a great idea. So, this is a nice little template that I like using every year to grow my business, is focusing on things that are simple. What are my marketing objectives over the next 12 months? Who are my target customers? Who are my competitors? So do that competitive analysis thing that I've just spoken about. What is our value proposition? What marketing tools are we going to use? Or what are we going to do about customer service? And what's our lead nurturing strategy? So create a simple template like this for yourself, just with little lines. Actually, I'm doing a new online learning program that I'm working on now, and I simplified this thing. And instead of doing this grid like I've got here, I just wrote them down as headers to make it easier for people to respond. One of my objectives is to simplify these things so you and I as business owners can work on these things, because often we have good intentions. It's a new year, we're going to do it much better this year, and then we're just as disorganized as we were before, which is something that really concerns me. When it comes to your sales, set yourselves sales targets. I know I was working on this week, setting sales targets for BizLaunch for 2022. Do I know what's going to happen in 2022? Absolutely not. But I still set myself targets, numbers that I work to, so that I know what to do at what stage. If I'm not getting those sales targets, I need to change my strategy. And develop a lead nurturing or lead generation program which fits in with your marketing. And these are really important things as business owners that we decide. You might decide to use the phone as a lead generator, or email or social media or whatever it is, but we need to decide. The other thing we need to learn to do as business owners is work with our people. I was thinking about this yesterday. I was working on a slide deck, and I was thinking to myself, small businesses going forward have a big disadvantage. Why? Because, everybody's saying there are not enough employees. And then I was reflecting, on this. I was a retailer for 11 years. And since then, I've had some really good, loyal employees. And I was reflecting on what made these people so good, because usually in retail, you're taking people that you're paying minimum wage and you're turning them into great customer service people. And here's some of the lessons I learned as a business owner, is that you as a business owner need to find the right employees. But the way you treat them is the most important thing. And you've got to understand this, is that going forward, I was speaking to a friend of mine last week, and he was saying, so they do transport. Usually they pay people minimum wages. That's basically the employees whose work. It's loading trucks, offloading trucks, that type of work. And they usually pay people, I don't know, whatever the minimum wage, $15 an hour. And he was saying to me, now they have to pay people $21 an hour. So instead of 15, they've got to pay them 21, which is a third more, a little bit over a third more. That's a lot of money. So as a business owner, you need to be aware of this, is that labor's going to get more expensive. That's the reality. So as a business owner, you've got to think frugally and decide, firstly, what are the most important people I need to grow my business? That's the first thing. You've got to look at your business, analyze what's going on, and try and identify if you've got the right place, the right people in place. Once you've done that, you want to create a profile of the ideal candidates. And I've had an example recently of a business owner that I work with, and he created a profile, sent it out to his friends, not even to an agency. And the first candidate that came along was the right person. Why? He was very, very clear on exactly what he needed. He created a profile of the person, the ideal person. And here's the most important thing we need to understand, is when we interview, and I think this is going to become more and more important going forward, we've got to find people with a great attitude. The rest you can teach. And you've got to understand that you can teach good people to become much better. But the important thing is to find people with a great attitude. The other thing that I've realized, especially over the last 5 years, that is a competitive advantage for small business, is nowadays we can outsource everything. Just about, in the case of BizLaunch, 80% of what we do, we outsource it. So basically, we're just a shell company that gets big projects, that outsources most of these things. And why do we do it? Because it's quite easy to do, as long as you're very, very clear on exactly what you want. The other thing that I say to business owners is create an operations manual with processes, with systems, with policies and procedures. And I believe this becomes even more important going forward, because if there's going to be a scarcity or not enough employees, you're going to probably have to employ people that are underqualified. If you're employing people that are underqualified, one of your objectives is to make them better. And the only way you can do that is with systems and processes. And I believe that most of us undertrain our employees. I really believe it. We undertrain our employees. We don't train our employees and we expect them to be miracle workers. You've got to make sure that you train your employees regularly and focus on results more than anything else. I think this is a very, very important thing. I've realized over the last 2 years that some people need an office. Other people can work from home and be just as productive as people that work in office. So understanding how people want to work, I think, is a very, very important thing. And I think this is one thing that the pandemic has really opened up an opportunity for. I used to always say this to my employees before the pandemic. I don't mind where you work from. All I care about is that the work gets done. If you can do 8 hours work in 3 hours, I'm very, very happy. But the reason is I focus on results rather than the amount of hours they put in. I've realized, even as a business owner, is even when it comes to businesses, the most people that work the hardest aren't always the most successful. I mean, I had somebody last week, I was running a webinar, and I was saying to the guy, to the group, I wasn't speaking specifically to him, and I was speaking about marketing, and he said, how do business owners find time to deal with customers and do the marketing? So there's an example of a guy. He's busy, he's up working 8 hours a day, but that doesn't mean he's successful. And this is why it's very, very important that you understand it's about being productive. And this is what I said to the guy. I said, it's about prioritizing. If you say, well, you're too busy to market, that means you're too busy to grow your business, and that's your responsibility. But we as business owners have got to make decisions. I have found that many times the busiest people I know are not the most successful people I know. Why? Because they often doing work they shouldn't be doing, or they're micromanaging, or whatever it is. And my goal as a business owner, as a manager, as a leader, whatever I want to call myself, is to inspire and motivate my people. And if I understand this, my chances of building a successful business are much better. When it comes to your numbers, the specifics are, you need to know what gross profit margin you're currently making, and secondly, what you'd like to achieve. And it's very, very important that you and I know what these numbers are for 2022. The second thing we should be doing is we should be analyzing our income statement or our profit and loss statement or P&L statement, whatever you want to talk about, whatever you want to call it. It's very, very important that we do that going forward, because the key to building a profitable business going forward, now that we have inflation, is to control our expenses. And to control our expenses, we need to monitor our expense ratios. And this is where our accountant can really, really help us. The other thing I encourage business owners to do is to create expense budgets. Give your employees budgets. Make sure that you allocate money for the things that are important in your business. But you cannot be overspending. You've got to be very, very careful of that. And I've seen this many times in business, how they justify overspending, not an excuse. And then get a good accountant to guide you. I think this is so, so important. The other thing that I find is the key to building a great business is finding great mentors. And for those of you on this webinar that do not have mentors that help you, guide you, advise you, I would encourage you to seek out mentors. There are people in your community, in your area, that want to support you as a small business owner. Go and seek them out. And finally, and most importantly, I believe this. I believe that the next few years are going to be really, really good for small business. I really believe this. Why? Because I believe this change in the economy, this change in the way we think, is going to benefit small businesses, because more and more people want to buy from you and me. They want to support small business. They want to buy locally. They want to do that. And I think this is going to be a massive opportunity. I believe, and I've said this before, the boring stuff is going to be sold by the Walmarts of the world and the Amazons. We're going to sell the most profitable products or services. I believe there's a very bright future for us. And I think the pandemic has opened up opportunities for us. We can work remotely, we can work globally, we can work online, we can work offline. We've got to make the decision. And as a business owner, I've got to decide for myself how well I'm going to do over the next 3 to 5 years. It's got nothing to do with anybody else. It's got everything to do with me. I've seen businesses that have done really, really well over the last 2 years. Have a lot of them struggled? Absolutely, for certain industries. But the people that have changed direction, rethought their business model, and changed their marketing have often become successful. And that is my wish for every single one of you, that you take this advice and you build a successful business of your own that you absolutely love.